Alright, so normally I don't release bonus videos like this on the weekend. Usually I'm pretty rigorous about trying to stick to Tuesday and Thursday releases. However, I also did not expect that this past week that we would have this incredible shock drop of a game in HiFi Rush happening, and as soon as it did, I decided to spend a few hours with it, and I had an amazing time. And because I had such a good time with it, I immediately started capturing the footage from that playtime and decided I was going to make a video out of it because I really don't want you to miss out on this game if you just haven't heard about it, or if you're on the fence about it. I can assure you it's very fun. But before I get too far ahead of myself, full disclosure, I did not play this on the Steam Deck. Rather, I played it on the Xbox Series S and X because, well, I'm a Game Pass subscriber and the opportunity to play it for free, or kind of for free. I do still pay a monthly fee for Game Pass after all. But yeah, because it was free on Game Pass, that's where I chose to play it. Now that being said, it is available for the Steam Deck right now for $29.99, and by all accounts from what I've seen online with people talking about it on Twitter and on YouTube, looks like it plays really well there too. So all that being said, let's just go ahead and jump right into my impressions of HiFi Rush right now. In HiFi Rush, you'll be playing as Chai, an aspiring future rock star who takes part in Project Armstrong, these being the efforts of a corporation called Vandalay that looks to fuse technology in the human body for a whole range of new possibilities. However, when Chai goes to get his arm upgraded, some hilarious happenstance during the procedure leads your music player to get embedded directly into your body like some sort of rhythmic arc reactor, which then causes you to feel and experience everything to the beat of Chai's music. And after coming to, you will discover this along with your fancy new robot arm, and the adventure kicks off. Although to be fair, kicking off aside, even standing in place is sort of magical, seeing as everything in the environment, including Chai, just bounces around to the beat of the music. And on a side note, I have to say that I really love that they natively included a streamer mode to make sure that you don't get dinged for using licensed tracks on YouTube or Twitch if you decide to live stream this game. But the larger implications of Chai basically having a Zune in his chest is that all of your combat and movement is synced to the music as well. Every step and slam will land to the beat of the music, but you can perform better combos with increasing damage bonuses if you execute them to the beat, which adds a fun layer of complexity to the ordeal. And all of this is set against an eye-searingly saturated world that's as colorful as its premise. And while it's lighthearted enough, it's also really sharply written and doesn't miss an opportunity to crack jokes at evil corporate overlords and, well, by extension, consumerism, I guess. All of this is beautifully animated, and Chai is just this immediately likable character with wide-eyed optimism, and I found myself immediately rooting for him. Voice acting is stellar, and supporting characters too are well written, colorful, and just fun to interact with. Smidge, the smart fridge in particular, cracked me up as a sort of meta avatar for video game tutorializing. The world of HiFi Rush is completely gorgeous, like a comic book come to life. Although while sometimes this kind of art style can come off a little bit flat in a bad way, HiFi Rush has a ton of little visual flourishes that give it more depth. For instance, I was pleased to see that at certain points in the level where metallic surfaces were underfoot, you could see Chai's reflection underneath. And despite being pretty linear, the environments have more complexity than you give them credit for at first glance, and almost every new level that you enter has hidden crates and areas that are chock full of gears and upgrade pieces to find if you're willing to seek them out. Not to mention, elements of each environment also bounce along to the music right alongside Chai. Also, speaking of upgrades, at a certain point in the story you'll unlock the hideout where you can rest between missions, upgrade Chai's abilities, review any vlogs you've collected, and as a Slackery sort of character, hilariously progress the story by laying down on the couch. There's also a wall full of challenges to work through to get rewarded with extra gears for upgrades, and that's not exactly uncommon in games of this type, but it's a nice touch that as you complete challenges, you flesh out a painting on the wall of your hideout. But let's talk about the moment-to-moment action that you'll be working through in between those hideout sessions. Moving around definitely feels solid and responsive, and you get a double jump right out of the gate. As for the actual combat, it definitely takes some getting used to, and there's a lot of repetitive tutorializing. But given the unique spin on a standard hack-and-slash third-person action game, reinforcing the basics actually feels a little more necessary here than in other games, and I was pretty grateful it went through most lessons twice to really drive the point home. Now when it comes to that rhythmic combat, HiFi Rush doesn't explicitly go out of its way to make you feel bad when you don't perform to the beat, but it is satisfying as heck when you do thrash enemies with perfect synchronicity. Again, your attacks will always land on the beat on their own, but if you execute them in time to the music, you'll get bigger damage. Light attacks are single beat and heavy attacks take double, so you have to skip a beat in between button presses. At first I was admittedly a little intimidated, but again, ultimately you're helped by the fact that everything in the environment is also bouncing along to the music, providing some solid visual cues to keep you on pace. Plus, you can always press the select button for a constant image of where the beat lands if you need a little extra help. Beyond just feeling cool to execute the timing well, it also fills up your reverb gauge with energy, which will let Chai unleash special attacks. It resets after each engagement, so there's no real reason not to go ham on it whenever it's available to you. And you can also chain attacks off of dodges for some extra mobility to pop an enemy up into the air to take the fight vertical. The combat definitely feels great, but it did take a little bit for me to rewire my muscle memory to adjust to the timing. But once that timing did start to click for me, I absolutely couldn't wait for each new engagement to see what enemies would be thrown my way. It also feels like it's really nailing the pacing here with a fairly even mix of exploring colorful environments and sussing out hidden upgrades and collectibles, followed by throwing down with Vandelay's robots and employees. I've only had one boss battle so far, but it was an absolute joy, and picking apart a giant robot to 9-inch nails was super satisfying. Like I mentioned earlier, beyond combat you can also collect gears to upgrade Chai's abilities, and you can expect to indulge in some light exploration, platforming, and puzzle solving. And in time you'll start to meet some new friends to aid you on your journey to take down Vandelay, and I'm very much looking forward to hopefully seeing Chai become the rock star of his dreams. Now, despite how much I've enjoyed navigating Chai through these very colorful environments to the beat of some incredible music, I do have a few minor complaints about the game. For starters, I kind of already alluded to this, but there is some repetitive tutorializing in those opening 20 minutes, and while normally I'd find it pretty annoying, I get why they had to do it here. It feels really weird rewiring your brain for timing in a game like this, and the repetition really does help reinforce your movements, but despite the fact that I can see that it's probably called for, it's still kind of a drag when you really just want to get right into the action. The other thing I took light issue with was the jumping in this game. For the most part it feels totally fine, but it has a certain stilted quality about it, probably because every movement and action is in service to the rhythm of the world. It's not impossible to land jumps or anything, but don't expect to have Mario levels of mid-air control either. It's not as stilted as something like Ghosts and Goblins, where once you jump you're fully committed to that trajectory. Rather, I found it falling somewhere in between those two extremes, and noticing that I had to be a little bit more cautious anytime I decided to go vertical. Although in HiFi Rush's defense, if you do accidentally miss a jump and fall off the map, you do respawn pretty quickly. With those minor quibbles aside, HiFi Rush is proving to be one of the best surprises in gaming so far this year. It just feels like this weird, delightful mix of Scott Pilgrim, Big Hero 6, The World Ends With You, and there's just so much going right with this game on the auditory visual front, and on top of all of that, it's incredibly polished. So yeah, to put it frankly, I am here for it. Alright, so those were my thoughts on HiFi Rush, at least after playing through its opening hours, but hey, what about you? Are you interested in this game? Were you as shocked and surprised as I was to see just, something like this drop randomly on a Wednesday in January? If so, let me know in the comments below, because I would love to hear your thoughts on HiFi Rush. As always, thank you for taking the time to watch these videos, I really appreciate it. And let me know if you did like this format of doing a more single game focused sort of video. I know normally I do a lot of list stuff here on the channel, but if this is something you like, I'll try to do more of it moving forward. So anyways, again, thank you so much for your time, take care, and I'll see you on the next one.